Man, it has been a while since I've done a Ripple podcast on my own. It is because I have just had a crazy number of amazing guests and a whole line of people that are trying to get on this show. I have no idea what I've done to be so blessed by having so much enthusiasm around what we're doing with the Ripple Effect podcast, but man, it's off the hook, honestly. It is so exciting. I think I won't look a gift horse in the mouth, and I'll continue to deliver these great guests to you because we are creating some really powerful ripples. But it did feel like it was time, right, for me to record another solo podcast episode. And so I figured I would just jump on here and catch you up on the latest haps. So let's go. Boom. Well, hey, how's it going, guys? I really want to say we are entering the 11th month of 2022. I cannot believe that we are in November, and here we are almost at the end of this year. And I look up, and I got to say, I am just kind of blown away by how quickly this year has skipped on by. I still feel like I was doing some of my ultimate planning in January and sort of outlining my game plan for what was going to happen in this upcoming year. And lo and behold, the year has just flown by. This has been a really tremendous year for me because we launched our Ripple membership, which is something I'm super enthusiastic to tell you about. It has, we're now going into our third month of that. We launched September 1st, and it has been off the hook. It has defied my expectations in so many ways. What I really envisioned was creating an environment, a playground, if you will, for us to provide some really excellent content, some great coaches and subject matter experts, a place where you could connect and create a sense of community and do it a little bit differently. I've paid attention to a lot of these influencers out there that have created programs or membership things that are geared around a particular philosophy and approach. And I've even joined a few of those. What I found was they all tended to fall a little bit short. And maybe, nothing against anybody putting in the work, because I know it was a tremendous amount of work for us to get this thing off the ground. But I wanted to create a variety. Cynthia Berg, who's been so amazing in helping me get refocused on the Ripple and sort of, relaunched our website and has been a instrumental partner in getting this Ripple membership off the ground. She's our community manager. She has been tremendous, but she and I agreed that we wanted to do this thing a little bit differently. We wanted to create an environment where it felt almost like a buffet, right? You could come in and you could kind of, sample the things that felt right in that moment, but leave everything else. Come back to it when you want, so enjoy what you have in front of you and re-engage when the time is right on other things. And what we wanted to do, because of this buffet mindset and methodology, was we wanted to create a wide variety for everybody, right? So we wanted to have some events. We wanted to create opportunities to connect and engage, amongst our membership. And so we've done that. We wanted to focus in on a core theme and really wanted to drive that theme home from the very beginning of each month. So every month has a new theme, which this month is actually finding your voice, which is ironic because I smile and I think about, all of the trials and tribulations of just this show, right? I have really, I feel, come into my own as a podcast host. This, of course, the Ripple Effect podcast is my own show, but I'm in two other shows, Conversations with Asha and Steve, where I am working with another entrepreneur, Dr. Asha Prasad, and we've really enjoyed that show over the last several years. I started an experiment last year with my good friend and executive and leadership coach, Donna Carlin, called Inquiring Minds. And Donna is just like on another level, right? And I was super nervous about even agreeing to do the show with her because I wasn't sure that I had enough to bring to the table. And then when we started it, I felt really good. Her and I have just this great back and forth dialogue, as I do with Asha. And that's all part of this finding the voice that, I sort of kind of sheepishly smile about, because I don't think I would have had the confidence or the courage to actually find my voice, to sit at the table, to come to you as my audience, or in these other audiences for these other shows, and be able to do it with the confidence that I did, until I found my voice, until I found what I want to talk about, until I found what I was passionate about. And I stopped worrying about all the doubters, all of the people that really, whether they realize it or not, are trying to knock you down a peg or two. They'll tell you what you do right. They tell you what you do wrong. They tell you actually more what you do wrong than they ever tell you what you're doing right. And one of those things are sort of what I've come to determine as sort of tests, those gut tests. And I remember early on when I first launched the podcast, I was just playing around, having some fun, but I had a really, good business colleague and friend that had some negative things to say about it. Like, I wasn't helping my brand, and, it was maybe a little, too gamey, and who's going to listen to that? You've got to be professional, and you have to drive home, these really significant points, and you're going to, you really need to reevaluate whether this is a good marketing strategy for you. I'm like, dude, it's just a podcast. Really. But I remember how much that hurt. They made a comment on how many ums and ahs that I made. And I remember leaving, quite honestly, just to diverge here for a second, I got out of Toastmasters for that very reason, right? They have somebody who just loves to, make a ticker to how many times you say that in a talk or a speech that you give. And what I found was, as I was building my confidence as a professional speaker, when I would go to these meetings, they would just knock your knees out from underneath you. And I hated that. And so I got out of that because I needed to be finding my own legs. I needed to be, I'm using legs a little too much. I needed to find my steady approach. I needed to find my own way. And then here I am starting this new medium, years ago now, but on this podcast, and here this, person is basically telling me the same thing. And it really bothered me. It really annoyed me. And it really made me overthink the podcast. Quite honestly, those early episodes, I feel like, I just didn't do as good a job because I was trying to, rise up to a level that I felt like, was expected. And then I woke up one day and I'm like, who's expecting that, right? Nobody other than this person has actually made a comment other than, hey, they really get a kick out of what I have to say, or my approach, or my energy, my enthusiasm. And I'm like, why am I trying to deviate over into this lane to, tick a box for somebody else and, feel a little less authentic and a little less congruent on myself, right? And so I stopped doing that. And, I started, deciding I was going to start this interview process. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I don't know what I'm doing. And so some of those first interviews were a little rough, but everybody was patient with me. Everybody was great. And I have found my mojo, and I found that the world is sort of rising up to meet me because I have found that mojo. And so when I think back to this theme, and I think back to this Ripple membership, it kind of goes back to having that authentic voice, right? Finding what is, what you really want to share with the world, whether it's through your genius or your talents, your voice, your singing ability, your writing ability. There are always going to be doubters and haters out there. But really, at the end of the day, when you stop worrying so much about that and you start focusing more on the great work that you're putting out into the world, the great information that you're sharing, and that you are destined to do what it is that you are doing, everything changes. And so when we started to launch the Ripple membership, I had so many people tell me, nobody needs another membership. And, people are, getting, sick and tired of doing online content. They need that personal experience. And, there were people that I really, quite honestly, I thought were going to be in my court to do this that just weren't there. And when they look at the page, they're like, yeah, not really for me. I'm not one that really has to worry about connections. I'm so great at my networking. Even though I could look at them and be like, yeah, you are not, you so desperately need this. But I found myself struggling again early on in the process of trying to get people enthusiastic, energize this thing we called the Ripple membership prior to launch. And then something clicked. It's like, Steve, this is going to be what it is. And you have approached this so vastly different, where you're providing such a variety of content that people can kind of pick and choose what's going to work for them. And, we do these things so differently. We start the exercise I mentioned at the very beginning with a theme for the month, and we anchor that with this intentional anchoring session that my good friend Diana Amorti does. And it's so great because Diana is really good at helping people just get quiet, get focused, and she sprinkles in some really great words of inspiration, some great literature and poetry that sort of supports what that theme is. And it's the most perfect meditative way to get yourself centered and focused on the month ahead. And then we have master classes with subject matter experts that really have brought they have brought the fire. All three of our master classes are. Our third one here is in November, is with this amazing influencer and social media expert and market development and business coach Lynette Esperanza Robinson. She is just you just want to watch this thing over and over again. Her energy is so great. And our last two master classes, they were big reaches for me. But again, because I got confident in finding my voice, I was able to reach out outside of my comfort zone and connect with these people. Lynn Smith did our first ever master class. She was amazing. You might know her from her time on the Today Show or at CNN Headline News. She had been the weekend anchor for a number of years. And just after COVID, she decided that home and family were more important. So she made a career shift and went into media consulting. She's amazing. And she really did a phenomenal job to kick us off. But then in October, we had Jeffrey Davis, who is a best-selling author. He wrote a book called Tracking Wonder. He is a world-renowned expert in really stimulating creativity and focusing on helping us all reconnect with this, this young genius that we all still have contained deep inside of us. And he did an amazing job on his masterclass. And so these contents, this stuff, this information that we're putting together for our Ripple members has just been so amazing, so incredible, because it really, no matter where you are in your life or your career, I think everyone can pull something from it. But then we do these things, like the TED Ripple that we've put behind the Ripple membership, where we're featuring a Ripple talk and then we're having a discussion over lunch about it. And these discussions have led all sorts of interesting ways. And I'm just so honored that people show up and want to have the conversation. We do we've got exercises and challenges throughout the month, which have been really great. We've really had a great time putting these things together. They're really designed to get people to look at things a little bit differently, to leverage the theme of the month, but to, challenge themselves to go have deeper, more meaningful conversations. And this past month, we had a breakout session with Donna Carlin, my friend from Inquiring Minds, who's also a member, and Cynthia Berg did this amazing session on assessments, what you should take from them and what you shouldn't. And they had this great conversation that really gave some very, very powerful perspectives on the power of assessments, which, were such a perfect setup for this month in November, which is finding your voice. Knowing kind of who you are, your core energy, your communication style, your approach to how you build and develop relationships, how you respond to adversity. Assessments can sort of help you understand kind of at your core, where you are, how you respond, and how you interact. And I have for years told people, if you're going to be good at connecting out there, creating ripples, you do have to know how you respond and react, how you are, how your approach to certain circumstances is likely to occur, so that you can, on balance, figure out how to, make that environment of connecting a little bit more safe. If you know that you're high energy and you're very aggressive, you're more process oriented, you want to get, things done. And you're meeting with somebody who's a little bit slower, who's a little bit more, I've got to think about this. I've got to, see it in writing, or I need to see it through visuals. You've got to be able to know how to adjust your style in order to make that a successful outcome. And I don't think people take the time necessarily to do that enough. And so this was a great reminder to look at some of those tools. Donna actually provided several free resources on the assessments that are worth their weight in gold. I can tell you that right now, but her and Cynthia did this great session. So we do things like that. We have the 8-minute Ripple. All of our members get into those events, which are continuing to pick up momentum and give people a different perspective on how to build their personal and professional networks. It's such a blast. We have a great time doing those. We're doing them virtually now, so you can pour yourself an adult beverage and put on your bunny slippers and pop on to the call and get an opportunity to meet some really cool people, or even deepen some of the interactions that you've had previously with some of these folks. It's been really an incredible experience. We do this seat at the table coaching sessions where we'll throw out a coaching scenario where myself, Cynthia, and a guest coach or two will actually give their perspective and how they might handle that situation. And that has proven to be very insightful for our members because it's really kicked off some really interesting dialogues and some side conversations, which is all part of what we're trying to create. So there's all these things that we've done that are really unique and fun. And I realized when I had those doubters telling me, yeah, this is just not going to work. People are tired of these things. They don't need to know. Well, you haven't seen this, right? And I've been able to, over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 months, really find my voice about what I'm creating. This is the environment I wish I had had as an entrepreneur or a new business owner or someone that's going through a career or relationship change. You need your people, you need your posse, you need your tribe. And this is what we're trying to do. And so I tell people often, it's really great content, great coaching and subject matter experts, but it's really about that connection and that true community that we're trying to create, authentic community through the philosophy of the ripple, right? Creating action, looking for opportunities to add value, do these things. And I am just so blessed that this has happened. So I know this, episode may sound a bit like a commercial for the Ripple membership, and it's not. It's not intended to be that. It's really geared to help you understand that even me, Mr. Ripple, struggles with these things from time to time, figuring out where to confidently display my information or to share my message, and how I've had to overcome some of those naysayers and some of those folks that would love to knock you down a peg or two, and continue to move forward and realize that you're going to, the people that need to hear you, that need to know you, that want to hear that authentic approach that you bring to the table, they'll rise up to meet you. They will. Like with the Ripple membership, things are starting to really, bubble up to the surface. We're starting to get some really cool people involved, and welcome you to do the same. If you're curious, go to ripplecentral.com, go to the very top. There's a banner that will actually give you some additional information. But more importantly, after you look at that page and you've got questions like, hey, like this isn't just about networking, or if you feel like you're really good at connecting, maybe you immediately are like, I don't need it. You do. Let me tell you, some of the information and some of what we're doing in this side of this membership portal is it'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. And so if you've got questions or doubts, hit me up, because I'd love to have a conversation with you and be able to talk to the specifics of what this might bring to the table, what you might be looking for, and how we can accomplish that together. But, going back to everything that, I'm sort of, tying this back into our theme for this month in November about finding your voice. Every bit of this, whether it's the podcast, whether it's my additional writing, it's my blog, my ability to show up and be my authentic self with my co-hosts on these other shows. Like Dr. Asha is amazing. She's such a gifted and, spiritually connected individual. And, I sometimes wonder if I am not. So we are a really good balance in that regard. And then Donna is this brilliant business strategist, and she is she really pushes the envelope to get you really to think outside the box. And I worried that I would be able to bring the power, to bring the fire, to be their equals in these shows. And it's funny because those little things creep in from time to time still, and I have to remember to find my voice, to find my confidence, to find my authenticity, and put it all out there. Sometimes it's going to be great. Sometimes it's going to maybe not be so great, but you show up and you do it often enough, you're going to impress more than you are ever going to turn people off. One of the things that really came to fruition for me this past week, actually yesterday, I gave a presentation to some very let's just say well-established, very experienced and seasoned professionals, some career coaches and counselors. These people do this day in and day out, right? And I have a knack and have helped people every year since I can remember in some capacity, I've generally been responsible for finding people their next role. And I've had a lot of those opportunities really develop into really great career paths. And so I feel like I am part of that community without actually being a part of that community. And I got asked to be the guest presenter yesterday. We did a Q&A session, and some of the questions that got asked, I mean, they could have been doozies, right? And what I realized when I got off that call, that I had just hit it out of the ballpark, because I felt so confident in what I do and why I do it and why I believe the Ripple philosophy can make an impact in their career and what they're doing, in their chosen profession, but also for the clients that they're serving. And it wasn't a kind of a self-serving pitch. It was legitimately like, look, this is the process. This is the approach. This is why these things need to happen. They'll benefit you. You'll grow your client base. You'll have more satisfied relationships on that end. You'll have and make a positive ripple for the clients that you're serving. You'll help guide and direct them in a really significant way. And for me, that I got off that call. I was going to say I walked away, but I got off of the Zoom call. It was a virtual meeting, and I just smiled. I'm like, dude, after all this time, you are really leaning into your power. You are truly living every bit that you had dreamed for yourself. And how freaking lucky are you to do that? How awesome is this situation where I'm able to make this difference, to create these ripples in people's personal and their professional lives in this manner? And when you look at the vast majority of things that I'm doing and where things are really starting to take root and start to grow, I just have to smile, because it's happening for me. And I think a lot of that has to do with getting comfortable, finding my true purpose, and then being no longer shy to communicate what that purpose is, finding my voice. So I wanted to just do this episode to give you a little bit of a download about what I'm doing, a little bit of a behind the scenes look, behind the curtain, if you will, of some of the challenges that I go through about whether this is going to work, or, whether the world needs this, and how I've also had to insulate myself from the doubters and the people that they think they're doing you a solid by telling you no, or, this isn't a good thing for you to invest your time or your energy in. But really, at the end of the day, my gut instinct tells me that most of those people are so negative because they're really kind of jealous. They're really wishing they had thought of it. They're really wishing that they had the courage to put something like that out there. They're really wishing that they had what you have to go out there and go forward and make the dent in the universe, if you will. And I believe the same for you. I hope the same for you. If you really struggle, honestly struggling right now to find your voice, whether that's at work, within your team, with your manager, with your significant others, or your community, your new startup, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. It doesn't cost you a thing to book an exploratory call. Just go to my website. You can find a link there that would allow you to book a call, and we can explore it. Again, no pitch to starting or sustaining a coaching relationship. We've actually had a lot of these calls where I can help you in 20 minutes or less. Just kind of get focused on what's most important. But I often find, and this was true for me, that trying to find my voice was a very lonely and isolating and scary experience. I needed somebody in my corner that believed in me. I needed somebody to ask me the hard questions. I needed somebody to push me and to be there when things didn't go the way I needed them to pick me up and sort of dust me off and get me back in the game. And so if I could be of service and provide you that value to you, I'd be happy to do it. Obviously, I do that through an extended or long-term coaching relationship, but really, like I said, you might just get that nugget, that morsel of something, that spark, just in that initial exploratory session, and you never need a coach beyond that. Although I think you always should have a coach. I'm just saying, whether it's me or somebody else, I think it's an important and valuable resource. It certainly has been a huge benefit to my success personally and professionally. But at any rate, I throw that out there because I know addressing this, like, what do you mean finding my voice, Steve? What do you mean that, how do I get there? I don't have the first clue. Well, maybe we can help you find that first clue. Or at least I want to get you thinking. Hey, this is something that the Ripple Man said. Hey, this is something I really should be looking at. And as we get closer to the end of the year, what a perfect time to start looking at these things, reflecting on these things, doing some internal work to look at these things so that when you're ready for 2023 to kick off, man, you are ready to hit the floor running, right? Or is it ground? Hit the ground running. You get what I mean. But at the end of the day, we all have something that the world needs. And I want you to lean into whatever that gift is for you, whatever your genius is, and find that that momentum that helps you have that confidence, that brings across that authenticity and helps you find your voice. This is the month to start looking into that. This is the month to start, leaning into that. And, two ways that you could really, immediately take action to do that. Actually, three ways. One, go to ripplecentral.com and get on my newsletter. We'll send you a list of the things that we're doing in November that, certainly will at least get you part of our community and engaged. You can check out the Ripple membership. It is a great single investment that you could make in yourself. It's 12 months of amazing experience and content that you, for a fraction of what some of these membership programs cost. And then ultimately, like I said, if you have interest in having a quick exploratory conversation, we could get that scheduled, and you can find that on my coaching page on ripplecentral.com as well. So, there's a couple of ways to engage. Most importantly, whether you do any of those, ask yourself, what is my voice? How do I find it? How do I bring it to the world? And if I am bringing it to the world and nobody seems to be listening, maybe I need to look for and find a new audience. My friends, this isn't easy, but life isn't easy, and that's okay. We got to be here for one another to create those positive ripples of momentum for each other. And so I wish you the best for this month. I appreciate you listening to this podcast. I appreciate you giving me suggestions on guests and having people contact me. And I am just so grateful for this opportunity to be your host on the Ripple Effect podcast. And just, in the month of November, it seems like a perfect opportunity for me to say this with heartfelt gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for being there along with me for this part of the journey. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And if you know anybody out there that's maybe struggling, get them associated with our stuff in some capacity, whether it's the podcast episode or the website or putting out great YouTube videos, for you as well. So go find me. Just search up Steve Harper, Ripple On. You'll find me. You'll find my page. Subscribe there. And, of course, on all social, you can find me at Ripple On. We put out a Ripple Thought of the Day. I'm doing more Instagram stories. I'm on the TikTok, not dancing. So relax. You'll be okay. I will not scare you off. But I'm doing my best to add value in all these different areas so that I can, do my part to create those ripples. And if I can create one for you or someone it would be my great heartfelt honor to do so. So thank you for listening to this episode. We will be back again with another episode with an amazing guest very, very soon. But until then, my friends, go out there, make a difference in this world, make a difference in someone's life. And by doing so, you'll make a difference in your own life. And as always, Ripple On.